Amara Tate, a black woman in a frayed denim jacket, stands alone at the Crescent Archery Pavilion, her mother's wooden bow trembling under the weight of 100 mocking eyes. The digital board flashes, arrow 100, a perfect bullseye, shattering the pavilion's record as the crowd's jeers turn to stunned silence. Her 100 arrows, each a blazing bullseye, rewrite history. But how did she silence billionaires with a relic? What secret drove her to defy their scorn? This is a story of courage, legacy, and triumph against all odds. Will you join us to uncover the truth behind her shots? Hit that subscribe button to catch our latest stories, and drop a comment sharing where you're watching from. Atlanta, London, or beyond. Stay till the end to see how one woman's arrows sparked a revolution. Like, share, and let's dive. The Crescent Archery Pavilion rose like a monument to wealth under the fierce Atlanta sun, its glass and ivory facade gleaming as if carved from light itself. Towers of polished steel framed the entrance, reflecting the city's skyline in a dance of power and privilege. Beyond the velvet ropes, a world of exclusivity hummed, where every arrow loosed was a whisper of status, every target pierced a badge of bloodline. The air carried the sharp tang of wax and ambition, and the soft clink of carbon fiber bows signaled a domain where only the elite dared tread. Into this fortress stepped Amara Tate, a 25-year-old black woman whose presence was a crack in their polished mirror. Her frayed denim jacket hung loose, its cuffs unraveling like a confession of struggle. Her scuffed boots, dusted with the red clay of Georgia's backroads, seemed to offend the pavement itself. In her hands she cradled a wooden recurve bow, its grain smoothed by decades, glowing with a warmth that felt alive. This was her mother's bow, a relic of love and legend, its curves whispering secrets of a woman whose aim had once been untouchable. Amara's dark skin glistened with quiet resolve, her deep brown eyes sharp and unflinching, holding a depth that could silence a storm. Her braided hair, tied back with a simple black band, swayed gently as she moved, each strand a threat of defiance against the tailored perfection streaming past. The crowd's gazes sliced her, men in bespoke tactical vests, women with diamond-studded quivers, their eyes raking her like she was an intruder in a sacred temple. A young man, Julian Voss, son of a real estate mogul, leaned against a marble pillar, his $8,000 compound bow glinting like a predator's tooth, his lips curled into a sneer, his voice dripping with the ease of inherited power. "Lost your way to the thrift store?" he called, his words sparking a ripple of laughter from his clique, a pack of trust fund heirs lounging like wolves in designer gear. Their chuckles were a gauntlet, each one a stone hurled at Amara's dignity. She stood still, her fingers tightening around the bow's grip, feeling the faint pulse of her mother's memory in the wood. Nia Tate had been a sharpshooter, a black woman whose arrows had pierced the heart of every target, her talent a blaze that burned too bright for the shadows of prejudice. Amara carried her legacy like a vow, but to the elite she was nothing, a nobody in faded denim. Her presence a blasphemy against their exclusivity. The receptionist, Claudia, stood at the gate, her platinum bob framing a face as cold as the glass behind her. Her smile was a blade, honed by years of guarding this privileged sanctum. "VIP lanes aren't for strays, sweetheart," she said, her voice loud enough to turn heads, each syllable a deliberate cut. She gestured at Amara's bow, her eyes raking the frayed jacket with contempt. "This isn't a public park. Run along." The crowd murmured approval, their phones already glowing, capturing the scene for the pavilion's live stream. A digital coliseum where status was both sword and shield. A girl in a $2,000 leather jacket, her quivers studded with Swarovski. Crystals whispered to her friend, her voice carrying on the stream. "Who let her in?" "She's embarrassing us." The laughter swelled, a vicious chorus that seemed to press against Amara's chest. Yet her face remained serene, her silence a shield forged in years of enduring such scorn. She reached into her pocket, her fingers brushing a faded VIP pass, its edges worn from years of being carried like a talisman. This pass, earned through her mother's coach, a man who'd seen Nia's brilliance, was her key to this forbidden world. She held it out, her voice steady, soft but unyielding. "I'm a guest." Claudia's smirk faltered as the scanner beeped green, a sharp note that pierced the laughter like an arrow. Her eyes narrowed, but she stepped aside, muttering, "This passes a glitch. You don't belong here." The crowd parted, their chuckles a lingering gauntlet as Amara stepped forward, her boots echoing on the granite like a heartbeat. The stream lit up, posts flooding in real time. "Charity case with a stick," one captioned, zooming on her boots. "She's a joke," another read, shared by a diplomat's daughter. Each word was a stone, but Amara's grip on her bow stayed firm, her brown eyes fixed on the pavilion's heart, where her mother's dream waited. The gates of exclusion had opened, but the battle was just beginning. Her silence was no surrender. It was a storm gathering, ready to shatter their world with 100 perfect arrows. The Crescent Archery Pavilion's interior was a cathedral of ambition, its black granite floors gleaming like a frozen sea under the glow of LED chandeliers. Each step Amara Tate took echoed, her scuffed boots a quiet rebellion against the polished expanse. Towering columns of frosted glass flanked the grand lounge, refracting light into prisms that danced across silver-framed portraits of archery champions, men and women whose cold gazes seemed to judge her very existence. The air was sharp with the scent of bow wax and wealth, a heady mix that clung to the velvet drapes and the tailored forms of the elite. Digital scoreboards pulsed with names tied to power: senators' heirs, Olympic prodigies, daughters of tech barons, each score a testament to a lineage that cost more than most homes. Membership here wasn't a fee. It was a birthright, a dynasty forged in gold and exclusivity. Amara, with her frayed denim jacket and wooden recurve bow, was a trespasser in this temple of privilege, her dark skin and simple braid a defiance of their unwritten code. The crowd's eyes followed her, their whispers a rising tide. Her mother's bow, its grain warm with decades of love, hung over her shoulder like a piece of history. Amara Tate had been a sharpshooter, a black woman whose arrows had once flown true, piercing the heart of every target with a grace that silenced doubters. Amara, now 25, carried Nia's lessons in her bones, each draw of the string a prayer, each release a promise. But Nia's story had ended in shadow. When Amara was 20, her father, Marcus, a carpenter with hands rough as oak, had sat her down under the dim light of their porch. His voice broke as he revealed the truth. Nia's death when Amara was 10 was no accident. She'd been a star in underground archery matches, shadowy arenas where billionaires bet on outcomes like gods wagering on mortals. Nia, determined to lift her family from poverty, had aimed to win one such match. Her bowstring was tampered with, her fall staged as a collapse. Her low birth and black skin meant no one cared to seek justice, except Marcus, who carried her, memory like a wound. Amara had vowed then to finish her mother's story, to claim the century shot challenge, 100 arrows, all bullseyes, to etch their names in gold. Now, inside this pavilion, that vow felt heavier than ever. The elite parted as Amara moved, their laughter a gauntlet sharper than the one at the gate. The live stream, a digital altar of judgment, flickered on phones, its feed a merciless mirror. "Charity case with a stick," one post read, zooming. On Amara's faded jeans shared by a diplomat's daughter with a sneer. "She's a joke," another captioned, the words glowing on a Tech Air's screen. A woman, Elise Kane, an Olympian with a $10,000 compound bow slung across her back, stood near a velvet chaise, her blonde hair cascading in perfect waves. Her voice cut through the lounge, amplified by the stream's mic. "This is Crescent, not a craft fair," she called, gesturing at Amara's wooden bow. The crowd roared, their scorn a weapon honed to wound. Elise's eyes, cold as the silver frames on the walls, locked on Amara's jacket, her lip curling as if the denim itself was an insult. Amara's fingers brushed the bow's grip, feeling Nia's strength in its curves. Her brown eyes stayed steady, but her heart thrummed with the weight of her mission. She was no stranger to scorn. Her dark skin, her modest roots had always drawn stares. But here, in this temple, the disdain was a living thing, coiling around her like smoke. A young man, Liam Drake, sprawled in a leather chair, his $15,000 bow propped beside him like a scepter. "What's she shooting? Firewood?" he snorted, his voice carrying across the lounge. His clique, a pack of prep school heirs, laughed, their eyes slicing Amara's boots. "Maybe she's here to polish the targets," one quipped, tossing a crumpled napkin at her feet. It skidded across the granite, grazing her toe. Amara stepped over it, her face serene, her silence a shield against their venom. The receptionist, Claudia, lingered near the lounge's edge, her platinum bob catching the light. "This pass is a glitch," she muttered, loud enough for the stream to catch, her words a spark in the crowd's growing fire. A girl in a $2,000 leather jacket, her quiver studded with crystals, leaned toward her friend, her voice a blade. "She's embarrassing us. Who let her in?" The stream pulsed, comments flooding. "Kick her out." "Fraud." Amara's braid swayed as she moved toward the lanes, her mother's bow a beacon in the sea of carbon fiber. Each step was a defiance, each whisper a stone she refused to carry. The pavilion's grandeur loomed, its privilege a wall she'd vowed to pierce. Her silence wasn't surrender. It was a promise, a storm brewing in the heart of a woman ready to rewrite history with 100 perfect arrows. The Crescent Archery Pavilion's lounge pulsed with the arrogance of wealth, its black granite floors swallowing the echoes of Amara Tate's steps. The air was thick with the scent of bow wax and disdain, the LED chandeliers casting a cold glow on the elite, who lounged like royalty. Amara, her frayed denim jacket a stark rebellion against their tailored perfection, moved through the crowd, her mother's wooden recurve bow slung over her shoulder like a sacred relic. Her dark skin, glistening under the lights, drew stares sharper than any arrow. Her braided hair, tied back with a simple band, swayed with each step, a quiet defiance in a sea of diamond-studded quivers and carbon fiber bows. The pavilion's live stream, a digital gallows, flickered on every phone, its feed a relentless mirror of cruelty. Posts surged in real time, each one a blade. "Charity case with a stick," one captioned, zooming on Amara's scuffed boots. "She's a joke," another read, shared by a diplomat's daughter with a smirk that cut deeper than words. The crowd's laughter was a gauntlet, each chuckle a stone hurled at Amara's dignity. Elise Kane, an Olympian with a $10,000 compound, bow, stood near a velvet chaise, her blonde hair cascading in flawless waves. Her voice, sharp as a blade, sliced through the lounge, amplified by the stream's mic. "This is Crescent, not a craft fair," she called, gesturing at Amara's wooden bow with a sneer that sparked roars from the crowd. Her eyes, cold as the silver-framed portraits on the walls, raked Amara's jacket, as if the denim itself was a personal affront. The scorn was a living thing, coiling around Amara like smoke, but her brown eyes stayed steady, her face serene. She clutched her mother's bow, its warm grain grounding her against the storm. Nia Tate's lessons echoed in her veins, each draw a prayer, each release a vow. But another memory weighed heavier, one that burned with risk and regret. At 18, Amara had stepped into a viper's nest, taking a friend's place in an underground archery match to fund her friend's grandmother's hospital bills. The match was a shadow world, where billionaires bid on winners like predators betting on prey. Amara's arrows had flown true, her victory ablaze, but the cost was her father's fury. Marcus, his carpenter's hands trembling, had roared under their porch's dim light. "You could have been killed," he'd shouted, his voice cracking with fear. "Those men played dirty. They killed your mother to control their bets." Nia, he'd told her, had died in a similar match. Her bowstring sabotaged, her fall dismissed because of her black skin and low birth. Marcus's tears had seared Amara's heart, his warning a chain. Her talent was a beacon, but it could draw the same fate. Now, in this pavilion, that risk felt alive, the elite's scorn a mirror of the greed that had taken Nia. The crowd's venom grew sharper, A young man, Liam Drake, sprawled in a leather chair, his $15,000 bow propped like a scepter. "What's she shooting? Firewood?" he snorted, his voice carrying across the lounge. His clique, a pack of prep school heirs, laughed, their eyes slicing Amara's boots. "Maybe she's here to sweep the lanes," one quipped, tossing a straw at her feet. It skidded across the granite, grazing her toe. Amara stepped over it, her silence a shield forged in years of enduring such barbs. Her fingers brushed the bow's grip, a faint tremor the only sign of the storm within. The receptionist, Claudia, lingered near a column, her platinum bob catching the light. "This pass is a glitch," she muttered, loud enough for the stream to catch, her words fanning the crowd's fire. "She doesn't belong here," a girl in a $2,000 leather jacket hissed, her quiver studded with crystals, her voice a spark in the growing blaze. The live stream was a battlefield, comments flooding like arrows. "Kick her out! Fraud!" A boy, barely 20, stood, his voice booming. "Why is she even here? This isn't a soup kitchen shoot." The crowd cheered, their elitism a fortress around Amara. A woman, her neck dripping with pearls, leaned toward her friend, her whisper caught on the stream. "She's embarrassing us. Look at her skin, her clothes." Each word was a stone, piling higher, but Amara's grip on her bow stayed firm. Her mother's bow, its curves whispering Nia's strength, was her anchor. She moved toward the lanes, her braids swaying like a pendulum, her brown eyes fixed on the path ahead. The pavilion's grandeur loomed, its privilege a wall she'd vowed to pierce. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was a gathering storm, a promise to honor Nia with 100 perfect arrows, to shatter this temple of scorn with the truth of her aim. The Crescent Archery Pavilion's lanes stretched like a battlefield under a vaulted ceiling, their 70-meter expanse a gauntlet of precision and privilege. The black granite floors gleamed, reflecting the cold fire of LED chandeliers, while digital screens pulsed with scores that carried the weight of dynasties. The air buzzed with the hum of ventilation and the sharp twang of bowstrings, each sound a hymn to the elite who ruled this temple. Amara Tate moved through the lounge toward the VIP lanes, her frayed denim jacket a defiant stain against the tailored perfection of the crowd. Her dark skin, glistening under the lights, drew stares like arrows, her braided hair swaying like a metronome of resolve. In her hands, her mother's wooden recurve bow glowed with a warmth that seemed to challenge. The carbon fiber bows slung across every shoulder. The pavilion's live stream, a digital crucible, burned brighter, its feed a relentless mirror of contempt. Phones glowed, comments surging. "Scrapyard archer," one post read, zooming on Amara's scuffed boots. "She's a fake," another hissed, shared by a CEO's son with a sneer. The crowd's scorn was a wall, each word a brick in a fortress of elitism. Amara's brown eyes stayed steady, but her heart thrummed with the weight of her vow. To honor her mother, Nia Tate, with the century shot challenge, 100 arrows, all bullseyes to etch their names in gold. Nia's lessons taught under George's oaks were her armor. Each drew a breath, each released a truth. But here, in this cathedral of wealth, her presence was a blasphemy, her dark skin and modest roots a sin against their unwritten code. The laughter from the lounge followed her, a rising tide that pressed against her chest. A group of young heirs, their quivers studded with gold, whispered loudly, their voices caught on the stream. "Look at her jacket," one sneered. "She's embarrassing us." The crowd murmured, their phones flashing, capturing Amara's every step as if she were prey. A new figure emerged from the coaching staff, Professor Evelyn Holt, her silk scarf a stark contrast to Amara's denim. Her face, framed by pearl earrings, was a mask of false pity, her voice dripping with condescension loud enough for the lounge to hear. "This is highly irregular," she said, gesturing at Amara's wooden bow, her tone a velvet blade. "Crescent is for trained professionals, not hobbyists with heirlooms." The crowd clapped, their approval a chorus that tightened the air. Holt's eyes raked Amara's boots, her words a deliberate cut. "A community center might suit you better. Leave now, and we'll forget this embarrassment." Amara adjusted, her bow, her fingers brushing its warm grain. her brown eyes flickering with buried resolve. Her silence was a shield, but the crowd's laughter was a battering ram, each chuckle a stone hurled at her dignity. The stream pulsed, comments flooding. Like a storm, "Kick her out!" "Fraud!" A woman, Elise Kane, an Olympian with a $10,000 compound bow, stood near the lanes, her blonde hair in a flawless bun. Her voice, sharp as glass, cut through the hum of the pavilion, amplified by the stream's mic. "This isn't the history reenactment," she said, her lip curling at Amara's bow. "Go play Robin Hood elsewhere." The crowd roared, their scorn a weapon honed to wound. Elise's eyes, cold as the digital screens, locked on Amara's jacket, as if the denim itself was an insult. Amara's grip on her bow stayed firm, her mother's memory an anchor against the tide. But the wall of elitism grew higher, its bricks forged in privilege and prejudice. A grizzled figure stepped forward, Colonel Victor Lang, a former archer with a chest full of medals and a scowl like thunder. His voice boomed, dripping with disdain. "Do you even know how to nock an arrow?" he barked, his tablet raised like a gavel. The crowd snickered, their phones poised to capture Amara's failure. Lang's eyes, sharp as the arrows he once loosed, raked her from braid to boots, his tone a challenge. "This is an elite facility. We don't have time for amateurs with twigs." Amara met his gaze, her brown eyes unwavering, her voice soft but unyielding. "I'll manage," she said, her words a quiet vow that pierced the laughter like a dart. The crowd's chuckles faltered, but their phones stayed raised, ready to feast on her humiliation. A boy, barely 20, stood, his voice booming across the lounge. "Why is she even here? This isn't a soup kitchen shoot." The crowd cheered, their elitism a fortress around Amara. A woman, her neck dripping with pearls, leaned toward her friend, her whisper caught on the stream. "Her skin, her clothes, she doesn't belong." Each word was a brick, piling higher, but Amara's braid swayed as she moved toward the lanes, her mother's bow a beacon in the sea of scorn. The pavilion's grandeur loomed, its privilege a wall she'd vowed to shatter. Her silence wasn't surrender, it was a storm gathering, a promise to pierce this fortress with 100 perfect arrows. The Crescent Archery Pavilion's VIP lanes gleamed under a soaring ceiling, their 70-meter stretch a crucible where privilege met precision. The black granite floors reflected the cold fire of digital screens, each one pulsing with scores that carried the weight of empires. The air crackled with the twang of bowstrings and the low hum of anticipation, a hymn to the elite who ruled. This gilded arena. Amara Tate stood at the edge of Lane 5, her frayed denim jacket a defiant scar against the tailored perfection of the crowd. Her dark skin shimmered under the LED lights, her braided hair swaying like a pendulum of resolve. In her hands, her mother's wooden recurve bow glowed with a warmth that seemed to challenge the carbon fiber bows gleaming around her. The pavilion's live stream, a digital inferno, roared with venom, its feed a merciless mirror of contempt. Phones flashed, comments surging. "Scrapyard Archer," one post read, zooming on Amara's scuffed boots. "She's a fake," another hissed, shared by a CEO's son with a smirk that cut like glass. The crowd's scorn was a fortress, each word a blade honed to wound. Amara's brown eyes stayed steady, her heart thrumming with the vow to honor. Her mother, Nia Tate, with the Century Shot Challenge, 100 arrows, all bullseyes to etch their names in gold. Nia's lessons, whispered under Georgia's oaks, were her shield. Each drew a breath, each released a truth. But here, in this temple of wealth, her presence was a sin. Her dark skin and modest roots a blasphemy against their sacred code. The laughter from the lounge was a rising tide, pressing against her chest like a storm. A new figure emerged, Nathan Wells, the pavilion's 27-year-old golden boy. His tailored gear as sharp as his jawline. His $20,000 compound bow gleamed like a predator's claw. His latest score, 98 of 100, flashing on the digital board to roars of approval. He turned, spotting Amara, and his grin was a weapon, smooth and lethal. "Beat me and I'll bow out," he mocked, his voice booming on the stream, Lose and you're gone, scavenger. The crowd erupted, their laughter a tidal wave that threatened to drown her. Nathan leaned closer, his breath warm, his eyes daring her to crumble. No pressure, darling, he whispered, his words a spark in the pavilion's charged air. Amara nodded once, her silence louder than their jeers, her brown eyes unwavering. The crowd's venom sharpened, each barb a stone in the wall of elitism. Julian Voss, the real estate heir, sauntered over, his $8,000 bow screaming wealth. That bow's a museum piece, he sneered, his voice carrying to the stream. Bet it snaps before you shoot. He flicked a coin at her feet, grinning. Pick it up, janitor. The crowd laughed, their phones recording, captions forming. Pavilion trash. A girl, Sophia Reed, in a $2,000 leather jacket, tossed a crumpled score sheet at Amara's feet, her voice ablaze. Clean it up, maid, she called, the paper grazing Amara's boots. Amara stepped over it, her face a mask of calm, her mother's bow an anchor against the storm. The stream was a battlefield, posts piling on. She's a disgrace, one read, with Amara's jacket in frame. Why is she here? Another, shared by a politician's daughter. Colonel Victor Lang, the grizzled ex-archer, stepped closer, his tablet raised like a gavel. This is an elite facility, he barked, his tone patronizing, his eyes raking Amara from braid to boots. We don't have time for amateurs with twigs. His words, caught on the stream, fanned the crowd's fire, their cheers a chorus of exclusion. A retired Olympian, now a consultant, leaned toward Lang, his voice loud enough for the stream. This is what happens when you let handouts in, he muttered, gesturing at Amara. No breeding, no skill. The crowd murmured agreement, their phones flashing, capturing Amara's stillness like hunters circling prey. Amara's fingers brushed her bow, a faint tremor the only sign of tension. Her mother's memory, etched in the wood's grain, was a flame in her veins. Nia's death, sabotaged in a Billionaires betting game, her fall ignored because of her black skin, fueled Amara's resolve. She knocked an arrow, her movements precise, her brown eyes locked on the target 70 meters out. The crowd's laughter swelled, a vicious chorus, each word a stone hurled at her dignity. A woman, her neck dripping with pearls, whispered to her, "Friend," her voice on the stream. Her skin, her clothes, she's an embarrassment. But Amara's braid swayed as she adjusted her stance, her silence a storm brewing. The pavilion's grandeur loomed, its privilege a wall she'd vowed to shatter. Her vow wasn't just to shoot, it was to pierce this fortress of scorn with 100 perfect arrows, to rewrite her mother's story in gold. The Crescent Archery Pavilion's VIP lanes shimmered under a vaulted ceiling, their 70-meter stretch a silent battlefield where privilege faced its reckoning. The black granite floors gleamed, swallowing the echoes of anticipation, while digital screens pulsed with scores that carried the weight of empires. The air crackled with the sharp twang of bowstrings, each note a challenge in this gilded arena. Amara Tate stood at lane 5, her frayed denim jacket a defiant beacon against the tailored splendor of the elite. Her dark skin glowed under the LED lights, her braided hair swaying like a metronome of resolve. In her hands, her mother's wooden recurve bow was a living flame, its grain warm with Nia Tate's legacy. The pavilion's live stream, a digital crucible, roared with venom, its feed a mirror of fading scorn. Phones flashed, comments surging. "She's toast," one read, zooming on Amara's scuffed boots. "No way she tops Nathan," another hissed, shared by a tech heir with a smirk. The crowd's laughter lingered, a fading tide, but their eyes were locked on Amara, poised to feast on her failure. Nathan Wells, the pavilion's golden boy, had just shot, his form a flawless dance, his $20,000 compound bow a predator's claw. The digital board flashed, 99 of 100, a near-perfect cluster of arrows, their tight grouping a fist of triumph. "Top that, thrift store," he called, his grin cocky, his dark eyes daring her to crumble. The crowd roared, their cheers a fortress of elitism, their phones raised to capture Amara's humiliation. But Amara's brown eyes were steady, her face a mask of calm. Her mother's lessons, whispered under Georgia's oaks, were her pulse. Each draw a breath, each release a truth. Nia's death, sabotaged in a Billionaires betting game, her fall ignored because of her black skin, burned in Amara's veins, fueling her vow to claim the century shot challenge. 100 arrows, all bullseyes, to etch their names in gold. Amara stepped to the line, her wooden bow steady, its curves a testament to Nia's love. The crowd hushed, their phones poised, ready for her collapse. She exhaled, her body still, her focus a blade. 70 meters out, the target's red dot gleamed, a distant heart waiting to be pierced. Arrow 1, bullseye. The board chimed, a soft ping slicing the silence like a spark. Murmurs rippled through the lounge. Lucky shot, Liam Drake scoffed, crossing his arms, his $15,000 bow propped beside him. Amara didn't blink, her braid swaying as she knocked her second arrow. Arrow 2, bullseye. The ping sharpened, a note that cut deeper. Elise Kane's high-tech sight slipped, her smirk fading, her blonde hair no shield against the growing unease. The crowd's laughter faltered, their eyes narrowing, sensing a shift in the air. Arrow 3, bullseye. A rare melody played, a chime reserved for 3 perfect shots in a row, its notes echoing off the granite walls. The crowd froze, their phones trembling in their hands. Beginner's luck, Julian Voss muttered, his voice cracking, his $8,000 bow suddenly heavy in his grip. Amara's face remained serene, her brown eyes locked on the target, her movements precise, almost sacred. Arrow 4, bullseye. The melody grew insistent, a pulse that shook the pavilion's arrogance. Colonel Victor Lang's tablet trembled in his hands, his grizzled scowl softening with disbelief. Arrow 5, bullseye. A quiver clattered to the floor, dropped by a stunned archer, its rattle a confession of doubt. The stream surged, comments shifting. Who is she? This is unreal. Amara's braid swayed as she drew her 6th arrow, her mother's bow singing with each motion. Arrow 6, bullseye. The pavilion was a graveyard, every eye on Amara, her denim jacket a beacon under the lights. Nathan's grin vanished, his jaw tight, his eyes narrowing as his 99 seemed to dim. The crowd's laughter was a distant memory, their phones lowered, their scorn unraveling. Arrow 7, bullseye. The melody was a hymn now, reverberating through the steel and glass. Liam's face paled, his bravado crumbling like ash. Arrow 8, bullseye. Elise ripped off her sight, her hands shaking, her arrogance exposed. Arrow 9, bullseye. The crowd was silent, their elitism a fragile shell. Arrow 10, bullseye. The board flashed a perfect 10 of 10, a prelude to Amara's true goal. The stream exploded, hashtags flooding. Amara Tate. Amara lowered her bow, her breath steady, her brown eyes sweeping the room. Her mother's memory, etched in the wood's grain, was a fire that no scorn could extinguish. The crowd's silence was a canvas for her triumph, their prejudice pierced. By each arrow, the pavilion's grandeur loomed, its privilege a wall beginning to crack. Amara's silence wasn't surrender. It was a storm unleashed, a promise to shatter this fortress with 100 perfect arrows, to rewrite her mother's story in the gold of undeniable truth. The Crescent Archery Pavilion's VIP lanes were a silent cathedral, their 70-meter stretch a hallowed ground where history hung in the balance. The black granite floors shimmered, reflecting the trembling glow of LED chandeliers, while digital screens pulsed with a score that could rewrite empires. The air was taut, charged with the faint hum of ventilation and the weight of 1,000. Amara Tate stood at lane 5, her frayed denim jacket a radiant defiance against the tailored opulence of the elite. Her dark skin gleamed under the lights, her braided hair swaying like a banner of resolve. In her hands, her mother's wooden recurve bow was a living flame, its grain pulsing with Nia Tate's legacy. The pavilion's live stream, once a crucible of scorn, now flickered with awe, its feed a mirror of shifting tides. Phones trembled in hands, comments surging. "Who is this girl?" "This is unreal," one read, shared by a senator's son, his smirk long gone. The crowd's silence was a graveyard, their earlier laughter buried under the weight of Amara's first 10 bullseyes. Her brown eyes burned with a fire that no scorn could extinguish. Her vow to honor Nia with the century shot challenge, 100 arrows, all bullseyes, now a blazing reality. Nia's lessons, whispered under Georgia's oaks, were her heartbeat. Each draw a prayer, each release a truth. Nia's death, sabotaged in a Billionaires betting game, her fall ignored because of her black skin, was the fuel that drove Amara's aim. The elite, once a wall of elitism, stood frozen, their phones lowered, their prejudice unraveling. Amara spoke, her voice soft but piercing, cutting through the stillness like an arrow. "I'm here for the century shot challenge," she said, her words ablade. 100 arrows, all bullseyes for my mother." The crowd parted, their heads bowed, their arrogance a fading shadow. Amara began, her wooden bow singing with each draw, its curves a testament to Nia's love. Arrow 11, bullseye. The board chimed, a melody that echoed like a hymn. Arrow 20, bullseye. The chime became a pulse, steady and unyielding, shaking the pavilion's grandeur. The crowd's silence deepened, their eyes locked on Amara, her denim jacket a beacon under the lights. By arrow 40, the melody was a heartbeat, each ping a crack in the fortress of privilege. Nathan Wells, the golden boy, stood rooted, his $20,000 bow forgotten, his 99 of 100 a dim memory. His jaw tightened, his cocky grin replaced by a flush of awe. Elise Kane, the Olympian, gripped her $10,000 bow, her blonde hair no shield against the storm Amara unleashed. By arrow 60, the pavilion was hers, its air thick with reverence, its elite humbled by a woman they'd called a scavenger. Arrow 70, bullseye. The melody swelled, a triumphant chorus reverberating off the steel and glass. Liam Drake's face paled, his $15,000 bow untouched, his bravado crumbling like ash. Arrow 80, bullseye. Elise packed her gear, her hands shaking, her arrogance dusted. Julian Voss slunk to the lounge's edge, his $8,000 bow no shield against the whispers. She's unstoppable. The stream trended globally, like Amara Tate. Flooding social media, each bullseye a myth in the making. Arrow 90, bullseye. The crowd roared, their hearts soaring, their scorn burned away by Amara's precision. Colonel Victor Lang's tablet slipped from his hands, his grizzled scowl replaced by a nod of respect. The audience leaned closer, their faith in Amara a pulse in their veins. Arrow 99, bullseye. The melody was ablaze, its notes a testament to a legacy reborn. Amara's braid swayed as she drew her final arrow, her movements sacred, her brown eyes locked on the target 70 meters out. The pavilion held its breath, the digital screens trembling with anticipation. Arrow 100, perfect center, overlapping the first, a flawless circle of triumph. The board flashed, century shot achieved. The system's voice, cold and mechanical, announced, pavilion record broken. The melody played one final time, triumphant, echoing off the granite like a victory cry. Amara lowered her bow, her breath steady, her brown eyes sweeping the room, a quiet fire that seared every heart. The crowd stood frozen, their phones lowered, their elitism shattered. Amara's denim jacket, once a mark of shame, was now a badge of honor, her dark skin a symbol of strength. The stream exploded, comments flooding. She's a queen. Amara inspires. Her mother's bow, its grain warm with Nia's love, had carried her through a gauntlet of scorn to a triumph no wealth could buy. The pavilion's grandeur, once a fortress of privilege, was hers, its walls cracked by 100 perfect arrows. Amara's silence had been a storm, her aim a blade that pierced the heart of prejudice. Her vow wasn't just to shoot, it was to rewrite her mother's story in gold, to prove that talent and heart could outshine any crown of wealth or skin. The Crescent Archery Pavilion stood hushed, its VIP lanes a silent altar where Amara Tate's triumph still echoed. The black granite floors gleamed, reflecting the trembling light of LED chandeliers, while digital screens glowed with her record. Century shot achieved, 100 of 100. The air was thick with awe, the hum of ventilation a faint pulse beneath, the weight of a shifted world. Amara stood at lane 5, her frayed denim jacket a radiant emblem of victory, her dark skin shimmering under the lights. Her braided hair, tied back with a simple band, swayed gently, a quiet banner of defiance. In her hands, her mother's wooden recurve bow rested, its grain warm with Amara Tate's legacy, a flame that had burned through a fortress of scorn. The pavilion's live stream, once a crucible of venom, now blazed with reverence, its feed, a mirror of reckoning. Phones hung limp in hands, comments flooding. "She's a queen," one read. "Amara inspires," another declared, shared by a senator's son, his smirk replaced by shame. The crowd's silence was a wound, their earlier laughter buried under the weight of Amara's 100 bullseyes. Her brown eyes, steady and piercing, swept the room, a quiet fire that seared every heart. Her vow to honor Nia with the Century Shot Challenge, to etch their names in gold, had shattered the pavilion's elitism. Nia's death, sabotaged in a Billionaires betting game, her fall ignored because of her black skin, was the truth Amara had carried to this moment. She turned, her voice soft but cutting, a blade through the stillness. "My mother, Amara Tate, was a champion," she said. "She died because men bet on her life and rigged her fall. I shoot to finish her story." The words landed like arrows, each one piercing the crowd's arrogance, their heads bowing under the weight of her truth. Colonel Victor Lang, the grizzled ex-archer, rose from his chair, his tablet forgotten, his eyes shining with respect. He clapped, slow and deliberate, the sound echoing in the stillness. One by one, others joined, the applause swelling like a tide, a reckoning for their cruelty. Nathan Wells, the golden boy, stood frozen, his $20,000 bow a relic of his faded pride. His 99 of 100, once a crown, was now a public humiliation. His jaw trembled, his heart stumbling as he saw Amara's smile, a faint, radiant curve that unraveled him. He stepped forward, his voice cracking, loud enough for the stream to catch. "I was a fool," he said, his eyes searching hers. "You're untouchable." The crowd's silence deepened, their jeers a collective scar, their phones capturing his vulnerability. General Clara Moore, the pavilion's director, strode forward, her silver braid catching the light, her presence a thunderclap. Her voice, resonant and unyielding, filled the lanes, broadcast to the stream. "Amara Tate has redefined excellence," she declared. "Her century shot is our new benchmark." She turned to the staff, her gaze stern as steel. Those who mocked her, Claudia, Professor Holt, face suspension, pending review. Standards here are about skill, not status. The crowd gasped, the guilty shrinking, their arrogance crumbling like ash. Claudia, her platinum bobno shield paled, her sneer a memory. Professor Holt, her silk scarf limp, averted her eyes, her condescension a lesson in failure. Moore raised a hand, unveiling a digital plaque on the screen, "Amara Tate Century Shot Champion." The applause surged, a wave that drowned their past insults. Julian Voss slunk to the lounge, his $8,000 bow no armor against the whispers. She owned him. Elise Kane packed her gear, her $10,000 bow forgotten, her modeling contract suddenly fragile, her arrogance dust. Liam Drake's boasts died in his throat, his $15,000 bow untouched, his clique avoiding his gaze. A retired Olympian, who'd mocked Amara's breeding, stood, his face red with shame, his muttered apology lost in the applause. Sophia Reed, the scoresheet tosser, slipped out, her $2,000 jacket no shield against the weight of her cruelty. The pavilion's elite were humbled, their exclusivity shattered by a black woman with a wooden bow, her dark skin a symbol of strength no wealth could rival. The stream trended globally. Amara Tate, a myth in the making, her 100 arrows a legend carved in real time. Amara stood tall, her denim jacket a badge of honor, her brown eyes a quiet fire that lit the room. The crowd, once a wall of scorn, now stood in awe, their phones lowered, their prejudice a bitter memory. Her triumph was more than a record. It was a blade that cut through privilege, a truth that no status could bury. The pavilion's grandeur, once a fortress of elitism, was hers, its walls pierced by 100 perfect arrows. Amara's silence had been a storm, her aim a vow fulfilled, a promise to rewrite her mother's story in the gold of undeniable excellence. The Crescent Archery Pavilion stood transformed, its glass and ivory facade no longer a fortress of exclusion, but a beacon of possibility. The black granite floors, once cold with privilege, now echoed with the footsteps of new dreamers, their bows drawn under the glow of LED chandeliers. Digital screens still bore Amara Tate's name. Century shot champion, 100 of 100. HEI's permanent rebuke to the scorn that had once ruled this place. The air hummed with hope, the sharp tang of bow wax mingling with the laughter of community archers, their voices free of elitism. Amara stood at the edge of the lanes, her frayed denim jacket a symbol of triumph, her dark skin radiant under the lights. Her braided hair, tied back with a simple band, swayed gently, a quiet testament to her resolve. In her hands, her mother's wooden recurve bow rested, its grain warm with Nia Tate's legacy, a flame that had reshaped a world. Weeks had passed, since Amara's 100 bullseyes pierced the pavilion's heart, but her triumph rippled far beyond its walls. The live stream, once a crucible of venom, now sang her name. You Amara Tate, trending as a symbol of truth. Her brown eyes, steady and piercing, held a quiet pride as she watched young archers train, their dreams unbound by wealth or skin. Her vow to honor Nia with the Century Shot Challenge, to etch their names in gold, had done more than break a record. It had shattered a fortress of prejudice, proving that talent could outshine any crown. The pavilion's gates, once barred to the unworthy, now swung wide, welcoming community archers inspired by Amara's story. Her victory was a blade that cut through privilege, a truth that no status could bury. Nathan Wells, once the golden boy of privilege, approached her in the lounge, his $20,000 bow long forgotten, his tailored gear replaced by humility. His eyes, once sharp with arrogance, now held a quiet intensity. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice soft, his gaze locked on Amara's faint smile. "I owe you everything." Amara nodded, her brown eyes meeting his, a bridge forming where scorn once stood. Their bond, not romance but respect, grew in the weeks that followed. Nathan funded a scholarship in Nia's name, honoring her mother's legacy, his privilege reshaped by Amara's strength. He spoke at community events, admitting his past arrogance, urging others to see beyond wealth and skin. The stream captured his shift, comments flooding. He's changed. Amara inspires. Amara's father, Marcus, watched her from the sidelines, his carpenter's hands rough but steady, his eyes wet with pride. "You did it, baby," he whispered, his voice thick with the memory of Nia's loss. His porch confessions, Nia's death in a rigged betting game, her fall ignored because of her black skin, had fueled Amara's fire. Now, Marcus found peace. His carpentry shop crafting wooden bows for kids who couldn't afford carbon fiber, each one a tribute to his wife's spirit. Amara mentored these young archers, teaching them to shoot with heart, just as Nia had taught her. Their laughter, free of scorn, was a melody that echoed through the pavilion, a testament to a legacy. A year later, Amara stood at a ceremony unveiling a golden plaque, Nia and Amara Tate, Century Shot Legends. The pavilion's director, General Clara Moore, spoke, her silver braid catching the light. "Amara Tate has rewritten our soul," she declared, her words broadcast to the stream. The crowd, once a wall of scorn, roared with respect, their phones lowered, their cruelty a bitter memory. A young archer, once silent, approached Amara, her voice trembling. "I was wrong to laugh," she said, her eyes on Amara's jacket. You're what this place should be." Others nodded, their applause a tide that drowned their past insults. The pavilion was no longer a temple of elitism. It was Amara's, reshaped by a black woman in denim who'd silenced billionaires with 100 perfect arrows. Community centers. Across Atlanta opened archery programs, funded by donations inspired by her story. The stream's hashtag #DZAmaraInspires became a movement, trending for months. Amara visited her mother's grave, her wooden bow in hand, its grain warm with memory. "I finished it, Mama," she whispered, her brown eyes bright. The wind carried her words, as if Nia's spirit nodded back. Her victory wasn't just a record. It was a promise kept, a mother's dream fulfilled, a world changed. The crowd's pride swelled, their faith in Amara unyielding. Her 100 arrows were more than shots. They were a revolution, a legacy reborn, in the gold of undeniable truth. The pavilion's gates, once a barrier, now welcomed all, its grandeur a canvas for dreams. Amara Tate, the woman who'd pierced prejudice with her aim, stood serene, her denim jacket a symbol of victory, her story a legend for the ages. Like, share, and subscribe to keep her light burning. What about you? Have you ever been underestimated, judged by how you look, where you come from, or what you carry? We'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment below and let your voice be part of this journey. Thank you for watching, for feeling, and for standing with truth when it's hardest to see. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs a reminder. Real strength isn't always loud, but it always leaves a mark. See you in the next story. Until then, stay true.